On 8th September 2025, we open this heartfelt space to honor the lives we've recently lost and celebrate the lasting impact of many others. Their journeys inspire us, their legacies guide us. We'll also reflect on WWE legend Roman Reigns' struggles that have moved fans worldwide. Subscribe today and join us in keeping their stories alive. Terry Jean Bollea, August 11, 1953, July 24, 2025, better known by his legendary ring name Hulk Hogan, was one of the most iconic figures in professional wrestling history. A global superstar of the 1980s and 1990s, Hogan transcended the ring to become a household name, forever changing the way wrestling was perceived in mainstream culture. Born in Augusta, Georgia, and raised in Florida, Hogan began his wrestling career in the late 1970s before skyrocketing to fame in the World Wrestling Federation, WWF. With his 6'7" frame, charismatic presence, and larger-than-life persona, Hogan became the face of the Rockin' Wrestling era, a movement that brought wrestling to international prominence. His booming catchphrases, heroic image, and unforgettable Real American theme song captured the imagination of millions of fans, known proudly as Hulkamaniacs. Hogan's in-ring accomplishments were equally monumental. A six-time WWF champion and six-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, he was a rare main event star across multiple eras and promotions. He headlined numerous WrestleManias, most memorably WrestleMania 3, where his legendary body slam of Andre the Giant became one of wrestling's most enduring moments. Outside the squared circle, Hogan became a pop culture icon, appearing in films, television, and countless endorsements. His influence stretched far beyond wrestling, shaping entertainment and inspiring generations of performers. Hulk Hogan passed away on July 24, 2025 in Clearwater, Florida, at the age of 71. Despite personal controversies, his impact remains immeasurable. He will forever be remembered as the ultimate symbol of professional wrestling's golden era and one of the most influential entertainers of all time. Howard Finkel, June 7, 1950, April 16, 2020, was a legendary ring announcer whose voice became synonymous with professional wrestling for more than 4 decades. Born in Brooklyn, New York, Finkel joined the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF, in 1975 and became the company's first official ring announcer. When the promotion evolved into the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, now WWE, Finkel remained its most trusted and iconic voice. Known affectionately as the Fink, his booming tone, clear enunciation, and infectious enthusiasm helped define the presentation of wrestling events. His trademark phrase, "and new," delivered during championship victories, remains one of the most celebrated calls in sports entertainment history. Finkel's announcing played an integral role in countless iconic moments, including the very first WrestleMania in 1985, and he would go on to be part of nearly every WrestleMania thereafter. Beyond the microphone, Finkel contributed behind the scenes in writing, production, and creative development. He also played a significant role in the creation of the WWE Hall of Fame, ensuring the legacies of past legends were preserved and honored. Finkel's profound influence on the industry was recognized when he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2009. Admired by fans and deeply respected by his peers, he was considered the voice of WWE for generations. Howard Finkel passed away on April 16, 2020, at the age of 69. His legacy as the greatest ring announcer in wrestling history endures, his voice echoing forever in the memories of fans worldwide. Frank Donald Goodish, June 18, 1946, July 17, 1988, better known as Bruiser Brody, was one of professional wrestling's most feared, respected, and influential figures. Standing well over 6 feet tall with a wild mane of hair and a menacing glare, Brody epitomized the untamed brawler, carving out a legendary career across the United States, Japan, and Puerto Rico. Brody's in-ring style was unlike anything fans had seen. His chaotic matches often spilled into the crowd, blurring the line between performance and reality. Known for his ferocity, raw intensity, and refusal to be controlled, Brody built a reputation as both a legitimate tough guy and a wrestling maverick. His rivalries with Abdullah the Butcher, Stan Hansen, and the Von Erich family became defining feuds of his era, cementing his place as a cornerstone of hardcore wrestling. Throughout his career, Brody competed in major promotions including World Class Championship Wrestling, WCCW, the American Wrestling Association, AWA, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW, where his larger-than-life presence captivated audiences. Beyond his matches, Brody was known for standing his ground with promoters, earning respect among peers for his integrity and independence, even if it made him a controversial figure. Tragically, Brody's life was cut short at age 42 when he was fatally stabbed in Puerto Rico, shocking the wrestling world. Despite his untimely death, his influence endures. Many wrestlers who embraced hardcore and brawling styles trace inspiration back to him. Posthumously inducted into multiple wrestling halls of fame, Bruiser Brody remains a symbol of unrelenting passion, intensity, and authenticity in professional wrestling. Mike Halak, May 14, 1968, July 11, 2023, was an American professional wrestler best remembered for his colorful persona during the World Wrestling Federation's mid-1990s era. Born in Omaha, Nebraska, Halak broke into wrestling in 1991, bringing with him an imposing combination of size, strength, and charisma that made him a natural fit for the sport's theatrical world. Halak gained his greatest recognition in 1995, when he debuted in the WWF under the character Mantor, a half-man, half-bull gimmick complete with a horned bull's headpiece during his entrances. Though the persona was short-lived, Mantor became a memorable part of the WWF's larger-than-life roster, embodying the wild creativity of the era. Later, Halak competed under other names, including Tank, showing his adaptability and commitment to entertaining fans. Beyond the WWF, Halak built a career across independent promotions in the United States and Europe, where his powerful in-ring style and intimidating presence earned him respect. Standing 6 feet 1 inch tall, his physicality made him a formidable competitor, while his willingness to embrace unique and challenging roles highlighted his dedication to the business. Though he never achieved the status of a main event superstar, Halak's career represents the essence of professional wrestling's golden age, where characters were bold, experimental, and unforgettable. Mike Halak passed away on July 11, 2023 in Cape Coral, Florida, at the age of 55. Fondly remembered by fans, he remains a symbol of wrestling's enduring creativity and the performers who gave their all to entertain. Jonathan Reckner, April 11, 1972, April 12, 2016, best known as Balls Mahoney, was a hardcore wrestling icon whose fearless style and unfiltered personality made him a beloved figure in Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW, during the 1990s. Born in Spring Lake Heights, New Jersey, Mahoney began wrestling in the late 1980s under various gimmicks, including brief stints in the WWF as Zonta Klaus and in Smoky Mountain Wrestling as Boo Bradley. His career truly took off in 1997 when he joined ECW and adopted the Balls Mahoney persona, a wild brawler armed with a steel chair. Known for his punishing chair shots, which would prompt fans to chant "balls" with every strike, Mahoney embodied the chaotic spirit of ECW. His matches were unpredictable, violent, and passionate, earning him a devoted following among hardcore fans. Mahoney also found success in tag team wrestling, most notably alongside Axl Rotten as the Hardcore Chair Swingin' Freaks. Though they never won the ECW Tag Team Championship, the duo became cult favorites, celebrated for their relentless energy and brutal matches. After ECW closed in 2001, Mahoney remained active on the independent circuit and appeared in WWE's mid-2000s revival of ECW. While the toned-down environment limited his signature style, his reputation as a fearless performer endured. Tragically, Mahoney passed away on April 12, 2016, just one day after his 44th birthday due to a heart attack. His legacy as a cult hero of hardcore wrestling lives on, remembered for his resilience, passion, and unwavering connection with fans. Paris became the stage for one of WWE's most shocking moments as Roman Reigns, the seemingly untouchable tribal chief, was broken down in brutal fashion. Fans filled the arena expecting dominance, but instead witnessed Braun Breaker's explosive intensity and Bronson Reed's overpowering strength combined to overwhelm the champion. Every crushing slam and spear sent shockwaves through the crowd, stripping away Reigns' aura of invincibility. For the first time in years, the tribal chief looked vulnerable, and the WWE landscape suddenly felt uncertain. Clash in Paris wasn't just a match, it was the night the Empire cracked and the future opened wide. Clash in Paris, 2025. The breaking of Roman Reigns. The streets of Paris glowed under the Eiffel Tower's golden light, but inside the Accor Arena, the atmosphere was fire and thunder. It wasn't just a crowd, it was a storm, restless, impatient, chanting, roaring with every beat of music played before the main event. The city that had seen revolutions, that had watched empires rise and crumble, was about to host the collapse of another. For years, Roman Reigns had reigned unchallenged, the tribal chief, the head of the table, the indestructible monarch of WWE. But on this night, with more than 15,000 voices chanting in French and English alike, his aura of invincibility was about to be tested beyond recognition. The feeling in the air wasn't just excitement, it was inevitability, as though Paris itself demanded history. The champion enters with pride. When his music hit, the reaction was volcanic. Boos rained down like acid, mixed with an undercurrent of respect. Roman Reigns emerged with the Universal Championship slung over his shoulder, his black vest glistening under the lights, his expression cold and unyielding. He walked slowly, deliberately, every step heavy with arrogance. He looked out into the sea of French fans with disdain, as if their hatred only fed his pride. He had walked into hostile arenas before and left them silent. Tonight, he fully intended to do the same. Yet behind his confidence, behind the gold he carried, there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. Something about Paris felt different. The chants were louder, the signs bolder, the anticipation heavier. Even the commentary team noted the change, with Corey Graves observing that the champion looked tense in a way we don't usually see. Roman carried himself like an emperor, but every empire trembles before its fall. The Accor Arena crowd treated his walk as more than an entrance. It felt like a trial, 15,000 voices ready to judge. The young wolf enters. Then came Braun Breaker, sprinting onto the stage with the kind of energy that only youth and hunger can produce. His body was carved from granite, his eyes blazing with fury. He didn't waste a second pandering to the fans. His mission was simple: confront Roman Reigns and force the future into the present. Breaker stormed down the ramp, slid into the ring, and locked eyes with Roman. The tension between them was electric, the veteran monarch staring down the rabid young wolf clawing at his throne. The Paris crowd roared, sensing a changing of the guard. Michael Cole's voice rose above the chaos. This is the moment Braun Breaker has waited his entire career for, the chance to stand face to face with the tribal chief. What had been speculation became reality, the future colliding with the present in the most dramatic of settings. Breaker radiated urgency, his stance wide and ready, every muscle flexed like a coiled spring. Paris leaned into it, feeling that this wasn't hype. It was a shift happening in real time. The avalanche approaches. But then the arena shook with something heavier. Bronson Reed emerged, his massive frame casting a shadow across the entrance. Reed walked with terrifying calm, each step slow and deliberate. He wasn't sprinting like Breaker, nor strutting like Roman. He simply moved with the inevitability of an avalanche. His presence alone silenced the crowd for a moment before a booming cheer filled the arena. Reed climbed onto the apron, and for the first time, Roman's smirk faltered. He wasn't facing one man tonight. He was facing two forces of nature, united by destruction. Graves whispered into his microphone, Reigns may have finally met a storm even he cannot weather. The image was stark, the proud champion in black, the hungry challenger blazing with fire, and the mountain of a man whose very existence seemed to promise change. Paris knew it was watching not a contest but a reckoning. The Eiffel Tower lit up outside. Inside, fans felt the weight of inevitability. The war begins. The bell rang and the war exploded. Roman struck first, surprising the crowd with his aggression. He hammered Breakker with fists, driving him into the corner, before turning and unloading on Reed with a barrage of uppercuts. The tribal chief roared, delivering a Superman punch to Reed that staggered the giant. He spun, spearing Breakker so hard the young powerhouse folded in half. The Paris fans gasped. Roman Reigns had started like a man possessed, refusing to let his empire fall so easily. Cole shouted that the chief was reminding the world why he had reigned for so long, while Graves countered that no opening salvo could erase what was still looming. For a moment, Roman looked like the unstoppable monarch he had always been. His chest heaved, his roar echoed, and the crowd, even those who despised him, couldn't deny the force in front of them. But empires never crumble in an instant. They shatter piece by piece. That was the undercurrent buzzing through the Accor arena, an instinctive sense that even the strongest beginning might not prevent the storm that was waiting. Fans on the floor clutched their phones high, recording each strike, each slam, eager to capture what felt like the opening chapter of something larger. Paris, a city steeped in revolutions, had no interest in a routine defense. It wanted transformation. And in those opening moments, the contrast was clear. A ruler fighting to remind the world of his power, and a restless arena ready to see if destiny would interrupt him. The tide turns. Breakker exploded back to his feet with a spear of his own, nearly cutting Roman in half. The impact sent a groan rolling through the crowd, the champion's hands clutching at his ribs as though trying to hold his aura together. Reed followed instantly, crashing into him with a body avalanche in the corner. Roman staggered, his face contorted, his chest heaving for breath. The dismantling began in earnest. Breakker lifted Roman into a military press, holding him aloft long enough for Paris to drink in the image, the future raising the present, the air lifting the monarch. Then he tossed him into Reed's waiting arms for a slam that rattled the ring. Graves' voice dropped. "This doesn't feel like a match, it feels like a takeover." The crowd's tone changed too, their excitement tempered with disbelief. For the first time in years, Roman Reigns looked dented. The aura that had seemed untouchable cracked in plain sight, and the building reacted like it had just seen a statue chipped. Some fans cheered wildly, sensing history turning in their favor. Others grew quiet, realizing they were watching something deeper than an upset. They were watching a dynasty tilt on its axis. Even the camera angles shifted, lingering on Roman's grimace, the sweat pooling on his brow, the faint shake of his hands as he pulled himself back to his feet. The chants became confused, some shouting for Breakker, others instinctively chanting for Roman, the paradox of an audience caught between bloodlust and respect. Paris was no longer booing for fun. It was responding to the vulnerability of a man who had so rarely allowed himself to appear vulnerable. The tribal chief's defiance. Yet if there was one thing Roman Reigns had built his empire on, it was defiance. Staggering to his feet, sweat pouring, his eyes still carried fire, he lashed out with another Superman punch that sent Breakker collapsing to the mat. Then, in a surge of desperation, he launched Reed through the barricade at ringside with a spear that sent debris flying. The Paris crowd leapt to its feet, chanting Roman's name now. The boos transformed into recognition of warrior spirit. For one fleeting instant, the tribal chief stood tall amid wreckage, pounding his chest as if to say the empire still had life. It was a reminder of why he had been untouchable for so long. Sheer willpower and an unwillingness to yield. But Paris knows revolutions don't bow to speeches. They keep coming. The defiance bought him applause, it bought him seconds, but it did not buy him permanence. Commentary acknowledged it with reverence rather than hype. Cole shouted that Roman was proving why he is the greatest competitor of his generation, while Graves admitted grudging respect for a man who refused to kneel. Fans captured that image, Roman roaring in front of the collapsed barricade, chest heaving, hair drenched in sweat, and posted it online within seconds, captions reading, "Still the Chief," and "Never count him out." But even those who posted it knew the truth. This was a flare, not a sunrise. Roman's defiance was magnificent, but revolutions do not wait. The final assault breaker surged back like lightning, clotheslining Roman with such force that he flipped before crashing down. Reed returned to the ring with precision timing, compressing the champion beneath his weight. From there, the punishment grew systematic. Breaker unleashed a string of power moves, Reed delivered crushing follow-ups, and the Accor arena shifted from thrill to unease. Chants that had been loud with anticipation now softened into murmurs of concern. Cole spoke quietly. "This isn't about championships anymore. This is about survival." The referee hovered, the tension visible in his body language. Piece by piece, Roman was being pulled apart. Every counter was smothered, every surge halted. Paris realized it was not watching a defeat, but the dismantling of an aura. The commentary team fell almost silent, allowing the emotion of the moment to carry itself. The match no longer resembled sport, but ceremony, the breaking down of a monarch brick by brick. Breaker's power slammed through the air like punctuation. Reed's weight pressed the seconds forward like a drumbeat. Fans shifted in their seats, torn between awe and discomfort. Some still shouted for Roman, desperate for another miracle. Others covered their mouths, aware they were watching a finish not to a bout but to an era. Each move stacked upon the next, and you could feel the inevitability in the way the ring ropes trembled, the way the announcers could only breathe into their microphones instead of describing. The final assault was not spectacular. It was suffocating, inevitable, and absolute. And as it unfolded, the Paris crowd underwent a transformation. What began as a night of chants and jeers evolved into a night of hushed respect, the collective realization that they were present for a hinge in history. The chants softened into applause, not for dominance but for endurance, not for victory but for defiance. When the last blow landed, it was not Breaker or Reed who made the loudest statement. It was the silence that fell across the Accor arena, a silence that carried more weight than fireworks or victory speeches ever could. Silence falls over Paris. Then it was over. The last sequence sealed what the crowd had sensed for minutes. The roar collapsed into silence, as if 15,000 voices had been muted at once. Roman Reigns lay still in the center of the ring, not pinned or submitted, but halted, his reign symbolically ended. Officials hurried in with urgency, their presence underscoring that this was bigger than story, it was history. Breaker and Reed stepped back, their faces set in the neutral calm of athletes who know they've just completed something monumental. And then Paris did the hardest thing, it stood. The same fans who had booed Roman minutes earlier now chanted his name with reverence. Parents lifted children so they could say they were there. Veterans in the crowd clapped until their palms burned. It was no longer about victory or defeat, but about acknowledging what had been given. The stretcher rolled not as a prop, but as punctuation, the ovation swelling because that is what you do when a man who has carried so much finally lays it down. The silence of Paris was unlike anything heard in WWE before. Not the hush of disinterest, not the pause before a finale, but a silence filled with recognition. The crowd was not quiet because it didn't care. It was quiet because it cared too much. Every clap, every chant of Roman's name carried weight, as though 15,000 people had agreed at once to honor the end of a reign. Even commentators fell back, their voices replaced by the raw sound of appreciation. When Paris finally let the noise return, it wasn't as jeers or chants for Breaker or Reed, but as applause for Roman Reigns, the applause reserved for those who carried a burden few could imagine. Backstage shock and respect. Behind the curtain, silence replaced spectacle. Superstars lined the hallways as Roman was guided past, some with tears, others with solemn nods. Veterans offered handshakes, rookies watched with awe, and everyone understood they had just seen the end of something enormous. For nearly a decade, Roman Reigns had been the axis of WWE, main events orbiting him, storylines bending to his weight, live gates trusting his presence. Tonight didn't erase that legacy, it emphasized it. Monitors replayed the final minutes on loop, but no one needed the footage. The image was already burned into memory, the tribal chief not beaten in the traditional sense but overwhelmed by the tide of history. The locker room knew it had witnessed a hinge, the end of one era and the uncertain beginning of another. Wrestlers whispered about the atmosphere in the arena, about how the boos had turned to applause, about how the energy had flipped in an instant from hostility to reverence. It was not a script, it was real, and everyone felt the shift. Even those who had dreamed of Roman's downfall admitted they felt the sting of watching it arrive. Eras don't end with fireworks backstage, they end with silence, with respect, with the realization that you've lived through something that will be talked about for decades. The hallway buzzed not with gossip but with reverence, as if everyone instinctively knew that the language they used to describe the night would be repeated forever. A new age dawns. In the ring, Breakker and Reed did not pose with fireworks or confetti. They stood quietly, their presence enough to speak volumes. Their alliance wasn't built on friendship. It was built on destruction, on recognition that together they were something unstoppable. The Paris crowd, buzzing in disbelief, realized they had seen more than a match. They had seen the dismantling of an empire and the birth of something new. Breakker embodied hunger, Reed embodied inevitability, and together they had silenced the aura of a man once untouchable. The image of the two standing tall while Roman was wheeled away was one that didn't need commentary. It spoke for itself. The crowd left in stunned chatter, some exhilarated, some unsettled, all aware they had witnessed history. For Breakker, the night was validation that his lineage and raw talent could anchor the future. For Reed, it was proof that power, when paired with patience, can topple giants. Their silent dominance made a louder statement than any post-match promo ever could. It told the WWE Universe that the company's axis had shifted, and from now on, stories would orbit around new gravity. Fans leaving the arena spoke in tones usually reserved for world events. Where were you when it happened? Conversations on trains, in taxis, and in late-night cafes across Paris all circled back to the same image. Two men standing quietly as an empire fell at their feet. The new age wasn't announced with words. It was announced with stillness, and that made it undeniable. Conclusion. Clash in Paris. 2025 will forever be remembered not as a wrestling match, but as a night of reckoning. It was the night Roman Reigns, the indestructible tribal chief, was broken not by pinfall or submission, but by inevitability. It was the night Braun Breaker's fury and Bronson Reed's sheer power collided in unity, leaving one of the greatest champions of all time overwhelmed. Paris, a city steeped in revolutions, added another to its history. The collapse of a dynasty not in politics or war, but in the squared circle. Roman was not humiliated. He was honored, carried out as fans who had booed him for years rose in respect. Breakker and Reed did not gloat. They stood as executioners of an era, their silence more powerful than any celebration. And as the ambulance carried Roman into the Paris night, sirens echoing like a solemn drumbeat, one truth lingered above the city: no empire lasts forever. Yet the greatest kings leave behind a shape others must measure against, and on this night Roman Reigns left such a shape, an outline of dominance, defiance, and dignity. The empire had fallen, but the legend was cemented. Long after the lights of the Accor Arena dimmed, the conversations continued. Fans debated what Breakker's rise meant, whether Reed's force would dominate on its own, and how long it would be before Roman found the strength to walk back into the spotlight. But all agreed on one thing: they had seen something that transcended match results. They had seen the moment when inevitability met legacy and changed it forever. Clash in Paris wasn't about three men in a ring. It was about the rewriting of chapters, the recognition that even the most dominant reigns are still human. It was Paris being Paris, where history insists on being made,